Hi, everybody. Welcome to our USCAN Meetup series, which we created this year to um, make better your knowledge of the product, to probably fill in some gaps that you might having using our product. Today, we will be launching this series that will probably last for, we expect that we will make it every month, sorry. And hopefully, we'll be able to help you guys understand our product better, achieve your monitoring goals with our product even better step by step. So I'll just give probably 1 minute for more people to join this series today, this call, and we'll start going through our first objective for today. Just to give you also some administrational information. So this call will be recorded. So once we finish this first meetup call, we will be able to send you the recording. Also, I'll share with you guys the presentation. So basically everything that you will see during the presentation will be available for you in two formats. Also, we are open to any questions anytime. And if you still, after this so-called meetup or training, will feel like you still have certain gaps related to the topic that we will cover today, you can surely write your customer success manager and request more in-depth demo for this or that specification of the product. Okay, now I see that we have more people that are joining step by step our meetup. So I think it's the perfect time for us to kick off this call. And so our main topic today will be to create a master query, generally the Boolean operator query, and the overall process of query creation might look sometimes confusing or a little bit challenging. That's why we decided to start our meetup series specifically talking about our Boolean operators, the logic that we have behind the query creation. And we will probably do that within a couple of meetups, not just one call, because we decided to divide it into like more basic things, just to recap on our basic operators and just to show you very simple things first, just to make sure you are a pro in the basics. And then for the next calls, we will be covering some more complex things, complex queries, and also we will be covering our advanced operators. So for the agenda for today, what we will do, I hope it's going to be pretty quick and concise. I know you guys are super busy and your schedules probably look super tough. So I hope we will fit like into 30, 40 minutes max. And within this time, we'll be able to cover our basic operators. We'll take a look at the best practices for brands. And it's going to be like, we will look at this type of queries from two perspectives. It's going to be a query for a brand that has exclusively unique name, and for brands that have a name that also has a generic meaning in the language in general. And the third best practices case would be for broad researchers in general. Also, I prepared a very small quiz for you. It's just 3 questions just to make sure you guys absorb the information well today. And by the end of the meetup, we'll also go through your questions if there will be some. Also, don't hesitate to drop your questions in the chat. So the chat is available for everybody and the Q&A session as well. So from time to time, I'll be looking at the chat at the Q&A session, and we'll be answering your questions step by step. So let's move on. We will start with the very first and the very one of the most important operators, which is OR. So those who's been working with the tool, not only USCAN, but probably the other tools as well. Even if you Google things, you can use this operator and the Boolean logic to make your search in the Google more refined and better. And the basic operator OR is mainly served for looking for several concepts without any context together. You're just listing the keywords, hashtags, or handles via OR, and you can get the results for many things, right? I have a case today for you with the Mercedes, the car manufacturer company. And if I would create the query for Mercedes, purely for Mercedes, I would start with listing as many possible spellings via the or operator as I can come up with. So basically, you have to also think about the cases where people might misspell the brand name, or generally misspell even any regular word, and it's not only related to the brands, right? So just try to think as broad as possible, come up with as many variations of the brand name or of the words you would like to monitor, and just list them via or. And the system will look for every particular version you listed via or and will give you those results. So as you can see at these examples that I have here, I have Mercedes in the mention from Reddit where it's written in the proper way. And I have a conversation about Mercedes-Benz credit cards, which is spelled kind of like incorrectly, so to say, with the Z by the end, right? And what I wanted to highlight and flag right during the first slide is something that a lot of our users are mixing up when they are creating queries, is that they are like making additional manual job that they can avoid is by typing keywords separately from hashtags and handles. Generally, in our system, every single keyword like Mercedes will be treated in three ways. It's going to be treated as the keyword, as the hashtag, and as the handle. So you don't need to add any additional symbols like hashtag or handle symbol to make it work in three perspectives. So feel free to avoid those additional, job to list everything twice or three times by using the hashtags and the handles. Just use the regular keywords and that's going to work. So now let's move on. The next operator, which is obvious, is going to be an AND operator. It's the second, I mean, from my perspective, the top priority. The first comes or, the second comes AND. And the operator AND serves to combine and set up the distance between several concepts or several keywords. For instance, let's say we're looking for Mercedes, but in the context with the word car. And we don't have any aim to, limit this search in terms of the distance between these two words. In this case, we would go with the easiest way. We would use the operator AND. And if you use Mercedes and car, you will get the results as you can see here on this example. As I mentioned on the previous slide, no matter whether you use the symbol of the hashtag or handle or it's a regular keyword, we'll be looking for all of them. And this is a great example of the way how the engine works. So basically, I don't have any handles or hashtags in my query, but in the results, I can see also the results with the hashtags and with the handles. Let's move on. The next operator is gonna be a /n. N serves for number, and it's actually should be substituted by the number. So this is a distance operator for the cases where you need to limit the distance between several concepts that you have in the same context or several keywords. So for example, you see here in my example, I have Mercedes/5 and SUV, which serves for suburban vehicle, very common word in America, in the United States for big cars, big trucks. So my idea is to narrow my results to such that will have Mercedes and SUV not in the distance. So the words that will be between those two keywords should be not more than 5. That's why I'm using the operator /5. I can go with any number, actually. I can do like /10, for example, and then the distance between two keywords, Mercedes and SUV, is going to be not more than 10 keywords, 10 other words. Or it can be less, but it cannot be bigger than 10. Same could be for 15, 20, 25. Actually, you're not limited. But if you go with some big numbers, like let's say 75, I got the request from client one day about /75. And I said, like, what's the point of using /75? You can just use and. When you have such a huge distance between the words, you can simply use and it's going to serve for the same purpose. What is important to highlight here is that when you specify the minimum distance here, it should be /1. You cannot put /0. 0 does not exist in this operator. So it always starts with /1, and /1 is basically search for a space between the word. For example, if I would go with the combination of Mercedes and Benz, I would use /1 operator just to highlight the fact that there is a space between those words. But this is just for one space, not for the rest. For the other spaces, you don't need to put anything. So you just go with more numbers, like with 2, 3, 5, and then you specify the distance between the keywords. Moving on, the next very important operator that we have in the system is the quotation marks. Quotation marks, they serve us in cases where we need to fix precisely the order and the form of the words, of the keywords, or of the phrases. As you can see at my example here on the in this like green square, I was looking for a specific model of the Mercedes. So I have the model which is like called Mercedes GLE 450E, right? So I'm looking specifically for these mentions. That's why I'm putting them into quotation marks. If I'm not gonna put them into quotation marks and I'm gonna just leave it without any operators, it can potentially cause and result into irrelevant mentions because the system will treat the spaces between Mercedes and GLE, for example, as an AND operator, and you will get just a lot of trash in your topic, which you don't need. So if you're really sure about your phrase, about the model of the car in this example, or if you need to exactly fix the order of the abbreviation, for example, the great example would be abbreviation if we would go with FBI, for example, right? So if we would use the, not the abbreviation, but the long version of this word, it would be great to put it into quotation marks. This way we will definitely fix the order of each word that stands behind the FBI. I hope that makes a lot of sense. Also, how you can use the quotations, especially for languages where you have cases and where you have a lot of versions of the words. English is not that big in terms of cases, but for example, for German language, for Spanish, Italian, Eastern European languages, we do have a lot of word forms, both for verbs and adjectives, and we have articles, right? If we don't wanna the tool to build up different forms in English or in German, for example, we just need to put them into quotation marks. Imagine we would have the word go. The system, if we would just use the keyword go without quotation marks, the system will automatically build other forms of the verb. So basically it will make the words like go, goes, gone, and so on and so forth. So if you're looking specifically for go, just put it into quotation marks and your life will become much easier in terms of the monitoring and getting rid of the trash that might come up in your topics. Let's move on. I see there are no questions so far. I hope this is just because everything sounds clear and easy to digest. So the next operator or functional operator, which we are going to cover, is the parentheses. Sometimes I call them brackets, but the proper word is parentheses, right? So parentheses are used to segment and groups of the keywords together in order to combine them in the context with the other groups of the keywords. That might sound a little bit confusing, but let's take a look at the example that we have here on the green screen, on the green square on the top of the screen. So imagine we're looking for Mercedes. Again, Mercedes might be spelled in a variety of ways, both the proper spelling and the misspelling, right? So I have three versions of Mercedes in one portion of parentheses because I want to group them all together. And then I have a second group of the words, the keywords that are actually a contextual words. They are giving me the context within which I'd like Mercedes to be present in, right? So it's like the second group. That's why I'm putting them into the second group of the parentheses. And then once I have main monitoring object like Mercedes and all possible spellings of Mercedes. And I have a second object, which is like a context in the second group of parentheses. I'll just need to use a certain operator that will serve for combining those two segments together in one mention. And it could be and or slash number operator, whatever, depends on your preferences. If you want to look for broader context, then you will use and. If you want to narrow your results, make the context like more narrowed and close to each other, the object and the context, then you would, but it's better to go with the slash and operator, right? So in my case, I use /5, so I could get the one of the spellings of Mercedes and then electric or electric vehicle, not far from each other, not more than 5 words, right? That's why I have electric vehicles here. It's actually too close, but it could be, the distance could be bigger, right? But just for you to understand the logic behind the parentheses, basically each keyword would be combined with the other set of the keywords. So basically it builds up a lot of different combinations between each other. And you are not limited to build up many groups and combine them with many operators, and we will take a look at like more complex example a little bit later throughout the presentation. So far, I think we can move on. We have just 2 operators left for this presentation, and then we'll take a look at the practical examples. So now, once we have some results and we are evaluating them through our preview option, we might come up with some irrelevant mentions, some trash that is popping in the topic. And we have 2 ways how to get rid of the trash. We can use and not operator, or we can use a stop word. So basically, let's first take a look at the and not operator. It serves for the like a twisted action compared to and, right? So if you just put and note, we will exclude some certain group of mentions. For example, here I have a query again for Mercedes and SUV, and I was looking for SUVs, but the SUVs that are not exactly the Geländewagen or Geländewagen or G-Wagen, depending on the region where you are. It might be spelled in a different way. G-Wagen is this like huge square SUV produced by Mercedes, which is like super expensive and super popular. But I'm looking at the regular SUVs, not at the Geländewagen, right? That's why I'm just using EndNote. I'm opening again the parentheses and I'm just giving a list of potential spellings for Geländewagen or G-Wagen, whatever you call it again, and I list them via OR. It's pretty easy. You just, again, use EndNote, open the parentheses and give it the list of the words you'd like to exclude. And as more synonyms or misspellings, different version of spellings you can come up with, the better, because human being is unpredictable. People might write common things in a very different ways. And the second option how you can exclude things is simply listing keywords, hashtags, handles, whatever, via stop sign. I would say that this approach is even easier, but I'll give you the differentiation, like what is the main differentiation between the first and the second option a little bit later. So as for the stop words, the only thing you need to know here is 2 things you need to know here. The stop words, they should be placed always at the end of the query. You cannot put them somewhere in the middle. You just draft the main query and then you add the stop words. And the second thing is the phrases. In the pure version, in the version of the regular keyword, you'll be able to add a stop word. But what about the phrases, for example, like G-Wagon? We can treat it as a phrase. G-Wagon, if you just use the sign, you write G-Wagon, it's not going to be treated as a stop word. To make it work as a stop word, you need to put it into quotation marks. This is like a little hack. And now let's discuss what's the difference actually between and not and stop words, because currently it looks pretty similar. And why do we need 2 two operators for irrelevant mentions. The main differentiator is that stop words, they will always be placed by the end of the query, and they will be applicable for the entire query that you just drafted. And not operator could be used for specific parts of the query. Imagine you might be having a query that will consist of three subject or sub-object of the monitoring, and each will need its own set of exclusions. Then in this case, it's better to use a not operator, because for each set of the monitoring object, you can add separate and unique set of exclusions. You won't be able to do that with the stop words. Okay, good. So now I think it's time to move on to our best practices. I have a couple of slides for you to take a look at the best practices. And the first one is the best practices for unique brand name. Frankly speaking, if you have a project with unique brand name, that would be probably the easiest query that you will create and draft in in our tool or any other tool, because when they have unique name, you don't need to like come up with the context, come up with some special words, and somehow narrow your search and work with irrelevant mentions. It's pretty easy. All you need to do, you just need to list all possible spellings of the brand, including hashtags, handles, website names, and misspellings. And if you have a certain irrelevancy, you want to get rid of the certain type of the content that such query might be collecting, you just need to add stop words or via the stop sign or via and not operator. So in my case, it's pretty easy. So I have BMW. BMW is pretty unique name. I'm just listing the main spellings. Is the abbreviation BMW. It's the original version Bayerische Motorenwerke. In the form, it's spelled and in the proper order. That's why I'm putting it into the quotation marks. And the third one is actually the version, like a hashtag version for this Bayerische Motorenwerke full name. Since I just converted into hashtag. Again, it doesn't have a symbol of the hashtag, but it's going to be treated as the hashtag because it looks like a regular hashtag. The next best practice is for brands that have more generic name or the name that has other meanings in the language in general, which is actually Mercedes. Mercedes is a good example as well. So Mercedes is not only the brand name for cars, but it's also a name of a person, or mainly women in Latin America or in Spain, and so on and so forth. Maybe it could even have different meanings in the other languages potentially, and we might even don't know about it, right? So what we need to do here, in case we have something like that, we will just need to add contextual block using our parentheses. So here is another example how we can use the blocks for with parentheses. So we are putting Mercedes in the first block of the parentheses. Then we add an operator of the distance, and then we open up a second group of the parentheses, and then we are listing the contextual words or clarifying words, whatever you prefer to call them. And in the second part, I'm just trying to come up with as many words related to car manufacturer as possible. In my case, it's not that big. It's just Benz car vehicle, SUV, electric, EV, corporation, and company. But you can come up with more, definitely, and also with the specific hashtags that might be used in the context of car manufacturers or car selling, whatever. And after that, you just add the stop words again, just to get rid of the content you don't need. In my example, I just wanted to get rid of the sales promotional posts right away instead of doing that in the existing topic. Just because I wanted to save my quota, for example, right? I just didn't want to have a huge topic. So I just listed the words related to dealership in the stop words, and the words that are related to sales, discounts, and so on and so forth. And this way, I'll just minimize the promotional posts from the dealerships. And the third best practice that we can, yeah? I think that was a question. No, I think nobody can talk except me, right? Sorry, I just heard some noise. My bad. So the last slide here would be about the best practices for broad search topic. And remember, I was talking about the fact that we can build up many blocks with the parentheses. And this is a great case where I can show you how you can work with a lot of pairs of parentheses. So imagine we are generally researching the topic of electric vehicles. Um, and we want to understand specifically, not generally like electric vehicles. If we create a topic about electric vehicles, it's going to be a million of mentions. But we would like to research the issue of the charging electric car during the winter, the issues with the battery during the extreme cold temperatures, and so on and so forth. So for such case, I would need to build up several blocks within my Boolean query. The first one would be, again, pretty much the easiest one, I would say. I would go with what? I would go with electric vehicle, and I would add the second pair, like car, vehicle, SUV, sedan, hatchback. I can like come up with as many possible words for cars. Because if I would go just with electric, for example, I'll get just an enormous amount of irrelevant mentions. That's why I need a context that I'm looking for electric cars specifically. Then this is like my first block. You see, I have the parentheses for electric, parentheses for cars. Then I need to think very carefully. So this is my first block. That's why I'm putting them together in the first block of the parentheses as the main block. Then I'm using the distance operator and I'm starting to drafting the second block, which will give me more context, what I'm looking specifically for within the electric vehicles. And then I'm starting to come up with the keywords related to low temperatures, extreme cold, minus degrees, sub-zero degrees, and so on and so forth. I don't have all possible versions here as well. I just didn't want, the screenshot look too big and too confusing. But in such cases, when you need to draft as many possible keyword options and phrases options, you can always use a trick of ChatGPT. Just give them a proper prompt to come up with as many synonyms as possible, and it works. I do that from time to time. So now we have the second block here, right? So we give the context of the extreme cold temperatures. And then I can go one level up, let's call it like this. I'm giving even more narrowed context. So I'm looking not only about the general performance of the car, for example, in terms of the low temperatures, but I'd like to understand the exact problems the battery is experiencing, the batteries are experiencing during the low temperatures. That's why, again, I'm giving another operator like /10. So I'm giving the distance once again, and I'm going with the third option here again in the parentheses. And I'm listing here the keywords related to either batteries or mileage issues or charging issues, and so on and so forth. So basically, everything the main thing that you have to keep in mind is that you need to have the first block, which is like your main object, a monitoring object, and then the rest of the blocks are the like contextual blocks, and that's it. Cool. Any questions? Let me just double check my chat. No, no questions so far. Okay, good. Now let's move on, and I think my next our next step would be to make a very small quiz. I just have 3 questions for you guys to complete. Let me see, where is my quiz options? Uh, it's just for me to understand whether this was helpful or not. So please take just 1 minute of your time, maybe just 2 minutes to answer the questions. And we'll see the results and then we can discuss the results. Hopefully the results will be good, but don't hesitate if you just put something, the answer would be wrong. It's not a problem. We're just practicing. It's good to make both proper answers and sometimes make mistakes as well. So while we are waiting for your responses, I wanted also to say that again, just some general information. This call is being recorded. That's why once we finish this call, we will send you the recording. Also, I will share with you the presentation. And our team is always open for the discussions. So whatever you have questions, don't hesitate to send us an email or write to us in the chat. Also, when it comes specifically for the search queries, I urge clients to, when they feel hesitant about their queries, whether they are good or not, or whether when you are not sure if it's like a really good query, you can always send a copy of your query that you're drafting to our chat, and our amazing support team will provide you with some suggestions. Maybe they will come up with some better versions of the parts of the query. So they are very absolutely open for such questions. So anytime, just drop them a line. Okay, I see that everybody already responded. That's amazing. Let me end the poll and see the results. So let's quickly take a look at the results. So the first question was, which operator will help you collect mentions for any of the following keywords? The main focus here was at the wording for any of the following keywords. And then I have hamburger, cheeseburger, and chicken burger. So since I'm looking for any of them, the proper answer would be to use or operator, because or operator would be looking for any of the keywords you would list in the query section. Let's move on to the second option. Which operator will help you collect mentions where the keywords burger and discount uh, should be in the same context? Again, here the hint is in the question, in the same context. And the question was open, not open, but there was like, you could choose multiple options to answer. And the proper answer was and or slash and. Somebody responded and not. And not serves for exclusions. That's going to be the other question. So your proper response is supposed to be and slash and. But the biggest part of the respondents provided the proper response. That's amazing. And the third one, which operator you will use to set a fixed spelling and a word order for a phrase. And we had here three options: parentheses, quotation marks, and stop word. And the proper answer would be quotation marks. So again, if you need to fix the spelling or fix the word order in a phrase, you'll need to use just the quotation marks. Parentheses are used just for grouping a lot of keywords together, but they don't fix the spelling, for example, or they don't fix the word order. Cool. I think anyway, that's a great result. And let me see if we have any questions, because it's time for Q&A session. I see that Mita just commented that Romina and Andrew from the support team are the best. Yeah, that's right. They are amazing and they're always happy to help you guys. So I don't know why, but sometimes I need to force our users to go into the chat and ask their questions. Please don't be shy. I mean, that it's their job to help you and to make sure and ensure that you guys get the best out of the tool and in a timely manner, right? So rather than that, that would be it for today. What I wanted to say also is that I have a survey for you guys where I would like you to share your opinion about the fact that we are gonna launch like repetitive meetups that will be dedicated to different topics. Also, it would be nice to understand like how do you find this first call and whether you have any ideas. Also, there is a third question which I wanted to point. Also, the third question would refer to the fact whether you would like us to take a look at your examples next time when we'll do the second meetup. So you can send us, if you agree, you can send us your examples and we can take a look at them more closely in front of everybody else. Okay, good. I would like to stop this meeting for today. It was amazing sharing my knowledge with you today. I hope you guys will have an amazing day ahead or evening, wherever you are. And I see you soon, right? Take care. Bye-bye.